Am I the butthole for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? I, 24 female, got engaged to Derek, 30 male, 1 month ago. Prior to that, we had known each other for 6 months. I know that's not a long time, but when you know, you know. We are madly in love and ready to commit ourselves to each other fully. My sister, 26 female, has a problem with that though. She was supportive of my relationship with Derek before we got engaged. When I sent her a text telling her we were engaged, she responded by saying congratulations. But then when I saw her the week after that, she got all serious and said I should strongly consider the marriage. She told me I was young and could meet people I loved more. That was offensive to me because I love Derek more than anything, and she's basically saying my love isn't that important. She also told me that Derek and I could date for longer before we got married. But we are already fully committed to each other, so we might as well get married and be recognized as soulmates in the eyes of the law. Anyway, the conversation was so hurtful to me. I eventually asked her, very directly, "Do you support me marrying Derek?" She said no. So I stood up, told her she shouldn't be at the wedding if she didn't want us to get married, and left. I haven't talked to her since, although she has texted me multiple times asking to talk. Derek and I were working on the wedding guest list yesterday, and we both agreed my sister should not come if she doesn't support us. So we are planning not to invite her. I mentioned this to my friend yesterday, and she pointed out that it may be a little rude of me not to invite her. So, am I the butthole for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? You're the butthole. You have not known him long enough to actually love him, you are infatuated. On top of that, you are ready to ruin the relationship with your sister for a guy you actually do not know? Edit, the fact that he is ready to allow for estrangement is very concerning. Second edit, narcissists and abusers like to isolate their victims. That is my concern regarding him encouraging the rift with her sister. I don't know if you're the butthole per se, but I think you're being very naive and I agree with your sister. Am I the butthole for telling my wife and kids to either take care of their dog or rehome it? 3 years ago my wife and kids wore me down and I agreed to let them get a dog. I am not a dog person. They seem like very fine people but they are just not for me. The deal was that I wouldn't have to walk it or clean up after it and that they would take care of it. It went fine for about a year and a half. But once the damn thing was out of its puppy phase they lost most interest. So for about 2 years now I've been walking it because it needs exercise. I have to buy it food because my wife forgets. I have to walk around the backyard before I mow to make sure I'm not going to run over its turds. I'm done. I came home yesterday and it had chewed up a pair of my shoes. I waited until dinner and then I laid down the law. Ty poor thing is going stir crazy. It is used to getting their attention and stuff all the time because of COVID. Now that they can do other stuff they are ignoring it. It isn't fair to the dog and it isn't fair to me. I said that if they didn't have time to walk it they could play with it in the backyard. But that if I found any turds back there that I was hiring a service to keep the yard clean but the money was coming out of their allowances or the house budget. I said I wasn't buying any more food. If there was no food and the dog wasn't fed I would be hiring someone to watch the dog and once again they would be paying for it. They got upset with me because the dog likes me and it's obviously my dog. Of course the thing likes me, I take care of it, which I don't want to do. So I brought out our agreement which I made them all sign. Not my responsibility. I said they had 3 choices. Take care of the dog, rehome the dog, or pay someone else to take care of the dog. They all think I'm being too harsh but I don't think so. I didn't want it on the first place. I've already checked with a friend of mine. She likes dogs and has agreed to take it if my family cannot follow through. My wife says that I'm being in butthole with this ultimatum. I think it's fair. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. This is exactly why I never got a dog. I knew that if I did, no matter the promises, it would end up being my dog. Why? Because I'm the one in the family that takes care of whatever isn't handled by others. Every dad who is not a dog person should read this post to understand why they should never let themselves be worn down. You were absolutely right in what you did. You didn't give an ultimatum. You confronted them with the responsibility they promised to have. These are the consequences of their actions. Not the butthole. Better to rehome the dog to someone who wants to be with the dog. Am I the butthole for enthusiastically following my sister's orders? My 45 female sister, 36 female, had a birthday party for her young daughter, my niece, over the weekend. Leading up to the party my mom and I asked her for an idea of what my niece wanted. Now keep in mind my niece is 1 so it's more what do you want us to get for her? My sister replied with some things and clothing was included. However, instead of just trusting us, she gave rules for the clothing. She said she liked colors, but would prefer we don't get dresses, skirts, etc. She claimed my niece has enough of those and she wanted more practical and gender-neutral clothing. I've seen my niece in a total of maybe 3 dresses, mind you. So I decided to enthusiastically comply with her rules and I got my niece $60 worth of white socks. Because hey, everyone has to wear socks, but pants are kind of gendered, so are shirts. Obviously vests were out of the equation, you know what I mean? My mom thought it was hilarious, but my sister and her husband and some other friends/family obviously didn't get where I was coming from. My sister had the bright idea to ask me for a gift receipt today, which I actually found pretty rude, and when I told her no, our dad of all people said I was being in butthole. You're the butthole. Nobody needs $60 of white socks at one time. You know full well what she meant when your sister said practical clothes. And to not include a gift receipt? That's standard practice, regardless of who the gifts are for. Come on. You're the butthole. Good job wasting $60 too. Try to make a useless point. Am I the butthole for telling my stepson that his kids weren't my responsibility? My wife was a lot younger than me and she had a 10-year-old son when we met. Her ex had shared custody. I had a couple of grown children from my first wife. My stepson Charlie and I never really bonded. He had a father and he made it clear I wasn't his parent, just his mom's husband. I respected this. He was always polite and respectful, just distant. I helped pay for his university when he went and we attended his graduation. When he got married, our invitation was made out to his mother +1. That was kind of a slap in the face, but we still attended and gave them a substantial cash gift to start their life. The thank you card didn't have my name on it. My first wife had passed away from cancer and it broke me. I didn't want to go through that again. Her youth was one thing that attracted me to my second wife. I know it was selfish. But I liked having a beautiful young wife to take care of and she liked me well enough. I didn't realize how much I loved her until she died. She passed away from a stroke. She was 49. Charlie came to the funeral with his family. His wife, whom I had only met at the wedding, and his kids. We had known he had kids, but he had never made the effort to bring them for a visit. My wife loved the kids, but Charlie wouldn't make the effort to come see us. My wife only had a very small estate and she left it all to Charlie. He also took almost everything of sentimental value that she owned before we got married. I didn't begrudge him any of it. My first grandchild just graduated cum laude last year and I went to his graduation. My son and his wife have worked hard to get their kids into college and I am proud of them. My son mentioned that my grandson had a job waiting and would be debt-free pretty quick. I asked how much he owed. Then I wrote him a check to pay it off. I plan to do this for all my grandchildren. I guess my daughter-in-law and my stepson's wife are Facebook friends or something. He found out what I did. And he came around to ask if I plan to do the same for his children. I don't really have any connections to his kids. I don't see them. They don't consider me their grandfather. I've personally only ever seen them at the funeral. I was really put off by him coming by to ask about money after ignoring me for years. I know that if my wife were alive she would want me to help out her son. It just felt dirty. I said that I had money for them in my will and if they needed it for university I would give it to them early. He said I'm a petty little man and that his mom would be ashamed of me for treating his kids like this. I don't really think I owe them anything. They have a real grandfather. I'm only including them in my will for my wife's sake. So am I the butthole? Not the butthole. You don't owe them anything, and it's very telling that Charlie wants no relationship with you except when it comes to money. Not the butthole, and I'd consider crossing them out of your will as well. He had his right to keep distance, but he can't expect to gain SMTH. Your kids were in your life, so you help their families, that's how it works. He stated you are just his mother's husband, so he shouldn't expect anything. Not the butthole. I would tell Charlie that he has defined the relationship you have with him and his family. That relationship is one of acquaintances. Basically, strangers who just happen to have loved the same person in different ways. And that you would not wish ill on him or his family, but will only be offering help to the grandchildren you have a relationship with. Then block him. Not the butthole, but why are you including them in your will? He got his mother's estate, you didn't. I could understand if you got your wife's estate to pass it along, but you didn't. And they're not acting like family. And he's acting like an entitled butthole. You're not being petty. He's the one that obviously have unresolved issues. Am I the butthole for arguing with my fiancée after she left my child at home and took only her kids on an outing? Backstory, my fiancée and I have been together for about 4 years. She has 2 kids, 12F, 15F, with shared custody. It's an odd arrangement, she has them June. Early September, she moved into our house. My daughter Charlie is 10. For the record, up until recently she has been an amazing mother figure to Charlie. Our first issue was back in November as we discussed bedroom arrangements. She felt her eldest should have a room of her own while living here 6 months out of the year. That would cause Charlie to bunk with her youngest. I however did not allow it because that would encroach Charlie and likely cause her to feel alienated in her own home. Last weekend I was called in and worked a 12-hour shift. When I arrived home, Charlie was upset because they went out to eat and left her home. She said when they came back, she was handed a bag of takeout and the food was stone cold. I asked my fiancée to elaborate, to which she confirmed taking only her girls out to an early dinner then took them to play mini golf. Hence why the food was cold, it sat in the car as they played. She kept deflecting to the food, saying she didn't expect her to eat it cold, she could have warmed it up herself. I kept insisting it was extremely rude to exclude Charlie from the outing. She came back with, "But I brought her food home." She then asked, "Why is it okay for you to go out with just Charlie? That's different. In the last 30 days her kids have been here, Charlie and I have only gone grocery shopping or on one occasion took her cat to the vet. That can't even be compared to what she did." We didn't come to any sort of an agreement. Friday she was taking her girls to the dentist. On the way out she made the snarky comment, "I hope this doesn't offend Charlie too." It pissed me off she said that. I called her feral. We both later apologized, but she then started the argument back up. She said it was so rude of me to argue about her taking her kids out. She further said, "I don't see my kids for 6 months, excuse the hell out of me for wanting to spend time alone with them." I understood her point, but I felt like we could periodically plan separate outings on the same day so no one feels excluded. She kinda threw the bedroom ordeal in my face and said, "My kids might feel alienated from their own mother if they can't enjoy time alone with me." She made the pointless remark that her kids have no problem with her doing things with Charlie while they're living with their father. She further argued that there will be many times when Charlie will be excluded because of the age gap between her and the eldest. I told her if she expects things to work out, she would need to treat Charlie as one of her daughters. She said I was entirely missing her point because I don't know what it's like having shared custody. Me scolding her for spending time with them as she said was a jerk-ass move. Not the butthole. She left a child at home alone knowing you were working a 12-hour shift? And then brought her cold takeout? That's just plain mean. Are you sure you want this woman in your daughter's life? The red flags are everywhere in this post. Your fiancé sounds very immature, and it sounds like you both need to work on your communication. You're not the butthole, but your fiancé is for leaving a 10-year-old home alone for that long and specifically excluding her from the outing. You're the butthole if you stay in this situation where your girlfriend intentionally neglects your child and makes snide comments about her. Am I the butthole for leaving my wife and infant to attend a funeral? My wife and I recently had our first baby, and she's 3 months old now. A few weeks ago my family was hit with a massive tragedy. I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. I wanted to travel to the funeral, but my wife didn't want to come with a baby. She didn't want me to go either and said I should be spending the time with her and our daughter, and once she's a little older we can all go to visit my family. I tried to explain this is important for me, but she wouldn't hear it. Mind you, I was planning to go for less than 3 days, left the night before the funeral and flew back the morning after. I went last week and during this time my sil came and stayed with my wife. My wife is mad at me and said it was selfish of me to go, and my priority should be them right now. I really don't think I did anything wrong here, but my wife and even my sil said what I did was completely wrong. Here for opinions because I guess we're all biased one way or another. As the new mother of a 4-month-old, not the butthole. It was 3 days. Yes, it's important that you support your wife, but this was for a family funeral, not a boys' trip to Vegas. Not the butthole. Firstly, OP, I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. If you haven't read his comments, he mentions the funeral was for his sister, brother-in-law and brother-in-law's sister. I can't imagine the pain your family is facing right now, and all I can tell you is to hold on, and take however much time you need to heal. The reason I'm not saying NAH is because I think the wife is acting pretty selfish here. The sil was with her. At 3 months, OP's wife should understand how important it is for OP to attend this funeral. This isn't living it up in Las Vegas. Also, OP mentions in comments wife and baby are both healthy, wife doesn't have PPD or signs of anxiety. She just doesn't want OP to go on a trip without her. Again, this is not a fun vacation. I'm sure OP would rather this tragedy never happen so he wouldn't even need to attend a funeral. I absolutely agree your priority, in usual circumstances, should be your wife and baby. This is far from that. OP and his wife are growing their family with the addition of their baby daughter. Maybe they'll have another baby in the future, a lot of hopes and dreams to come. On the other side, there's a massive hole where OP's sister's family was. This was the chance to say goodbye to the dreams they lost and the hopes that will never come true. Not the butthole. It was a funeral, not a fishing trip. And it was 3 days. Having a baby means that sometimes you have to take care of it alone for a variety of reasons. And in this case your sil came to babysit your wife and child. Am I the butthole for not acting impressed by my wife's accomplishment? My 28 male, wife, 26 female, and I have been married for close to 7 years. We currently have 5 kids together, male, 6, male, 4, female, 3, and my wife gave birth to fraternal twins, son and daughter, a year and a half ago. My wife intended to graduate high school the year we got married, but life got in the way. My dad had given me an investor relations type of role at his company, so we were traveling a lot, and then after that our kids needed our attentions. After our twins were born, my wife was bedridden for longer than we and even the doctors expected. Since we had to hire extra hands to do the childcare tasks that involved mobility, my wife had some time on her hands. Her mother told her that her friend who proctors at a testing center said that they give GED tests basically every week, at least across the state of Idaho, and that she should dust off her general education knowledge. She started browsing her laptop and decided to enroll in a GED prep class online. It seems she was better at self-paced learning than classroom learning because the stuff they were testing her on came way easier to her now than it did then, even though she's been away from structured classroom instruction for many years now. Even after she was back on her feet, she'd be studying for it after she dropped the older 2 off to their respective schools. I would see what she was studying and it looked pretty rudimentary, and I knew that getting a GED basically means nothing and that she probably wouldn't be able to apply it to anything career-wise, or commit full-time to community college, where I doubt the job prospects for students are that great right now either. So my wife ended up taking the test, and the other day she bounded into the room and said yes. I passed. I knew she would since she was doing well on the practice tests and the GED consistently tests on the same rudimentary topics. I did not gripe at her but merely nodded at her and went back to answering an important email from a client. My wife seemed to get upset and I asked her what was wrong. She said I didn't seem that excited, and I said that it's great that she passed, but I have been telling her that it was easy and no big deal, but if she needed something to prove to herself she knew the high school concepts, I guess the money was well spent. She got even more upset and said she worked very hard and this was the essential building blocks to being able to start a career. Am I the butthole? My wife passed her GED test, but she wasn't exactly graduating from college and wouldn't be for at least 15 years. I just didn't see any immediate applicability to her test, but I am glad she had something to challenge her while she was coming off being unable to fully care for the kids. You're the butthole. You're a major Your wife is trying to look after 5 children and found the time to get her GED. Why don't you let her go out of town for a week and see how hard it is to look after 5 small children? Would it have killed you to get up, hug her and tell her how proud you of her? Maybe take her out to dinner one night to celebrate? Wow. I hope this isn't indicative of the respect you give her the rest of the time. You're the butthole. Like there needs to be a level above this rating for this post. She feels accomplished because she did something that she put on hold for your lives together. Meanwhile, daddy handed you a job and you reek of self-importance. Am I the butthole for yelling "just leave me the frick alone" during a family dinner at a crowded restaurant? For context, my brother, 26 male, and I, 18 female, have never gotten along. He's hated me since before I was even born. He spent my entire childhood controlling everything I did, watched, and even ate. At Christmas he pissed me off. I was quite proud of myself for buying my first vehicle all on my own. He called my truck a POS. Then said to our parents, insurance companies statistically have higher rates for female drivers than males. He was absolutely insinuating they shouldn't put me on their policy. Simply because he's been on their policy since he turned 16 and has never paid for insurance. He knew damn well he was getting bumped off when I was added. First of the year, our mom told him to get his own policy. He was pretty salty about that. Fast forward to this past weekend, it was our dad's birthday. Honestly, I didn't even want to go and sit through my brother's usual bullcrap about how great he is. But I went, and as usual pretty much remained quiet. My brother asks, "So when are you moving out?" I was like, "Excuse me?" He says, "You're 18 now, you need to get out on your own now." Literally no one said anything, so I told him it's none of his business. He says, "Well, I moved out at 19. Here's where things spiraled. I said to him, You're not even on your own yet since you haven't bothered paying a single penny of rent in 7 years. He was fuming and tried changing the topic. My mom made a comment about that soon changing. Brother's girlfriend was like, what? So I told her, he moved out at 19 and hasn't paid our parents a penny of rent all these years. She was livid. Unbeknownst to anyone at that table, she had been paying my brother rent for 2 years because he led her to believe he was paying rent. The topic went off somewhere else. Then right back to me. My brother trying to give me fatherly advice by saying I should focus on my current job and forget wasting time with college. This was absolutely unsolicited advice. It pisses me off when he does this because he always does it, and acts like because of our age gap he has so much more knowledge than stupid ass me. He again comments about me moving out, says to our dad, I can't believe you haven't kicked her out after she brought all those animals in your house. They both laugh. I had enough. I got up from the table and yelled, just leave me the frick alone. My mom understood, but she doesn't want the family to fight. My dad said I was extremely rude by lashing out, caused a scene, made undue stress and embarrassed everyone. Apparently after I walked out, my brother says, well, she obviously has something wrong in her head. I felt bad because I'm sure a few kids dining with their families heard me, and I shouldn't have cussed in front of them. And, I guess I should have held it in and dealt with it later, but I've always let this crap slide and I was sick of it. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. You're clearly aware causing a scene wasn't the best move, but if you're not going to get any support from your parents, everyone reaches a breaking point. Good news is he's about to lose his girlfriend and be shown for the mooch he is. People use situations like a public place to needle nerves. Your very much brother thought he could keep going because he figured you wouldn't be able to react. He fricked around and he found out. As for your father, he should have shut that crap down when your brother started with his jealousy campaign. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. You father and brother both sound like sexist and horrible ahs. Your mom knows what's wrong but is just enabling both of them. Get yourself out of that toxic situation as quickly as you can. And I hope your brother's GF does the same herself. Info, his girlfriend is staying with him after learning that he's been conning her for 2 years? Am I the butthole for taking my kids to my parents' house to sleep because my husband will not enforce the rules when his parents visit? We live 3 blocks away from my parents and they see our kids almost every day. Hey, husband's parents live a couple of states away and only see the kids a few times a year. It's easy when we go see them since we only visit when the kids are off school. But when they come see us it is at random intervals through the year. Not a problem really, they are excellent grandparents. With one small exception. They think our rules go out the window when they visit. It's mean that we don't make the kids their favorite food every day. Why can't the kids watch TV with them before they do their chores and homework? Why do the kids have to be in bed so early? It drives me crazy that I'm the bad guy because my husband won't put his foot down so I have to do it. They came last week. On Monday as soon as dinner was over they wanted the kids to pay attention to them. They wanted to take the kids to see Avatar. On a school night. My husband allowed it. Last straw. I told him that he knew that throwing the kids off their schedule screwed me over. So I gave him the choice of either enforcing our rules or I would. He said he would take care of it. Second night there was a hockey game on. He wanted to watch it with our son who loves hockey. I reminded my husband that our son had chores to do and homework. He said it was just a hockey game. I told the kids to get their stuff. I took them and a change of clothes and their homework to my parents' house. My mom and dad will watch them and then take them to school in the morning. I went back home and they were waiting for me. I'm being a controlling and abusive person by denying them time with the kids. I'm not the only person allowed to make decisions regarding the kids. They came all this way to see them and I'm being a jerk by keeping them on a schedule. Fine. They are visiting for a couple of weeks. Wednesday after I picked up the kids from school and dropped them off at home with my in-laws. Then I went out for the first time in ages. I told my husband I would be out late and didn't want to wake anyone so I would be at my parents' house. Did the same thing Thursday through tonight. My husband has been calling and texting and coming over to tell me I need to come home because the house is a disaster because his parents won't do anything. They are in vacation and they are there to see the kids not clean up. The kids are having a fun time with no rules and he has been contacted by the school because no homework was turned in on Thursday or Friday. I didn't answer those texts. I said I would be back after his parents left or he enforced the rules. He said I was taking it too far and that it was affecting his work. Honestly, tough crap. #edit. My son just texted me about his gym clothes for today. I guess he never put them on the hamper and they didn't get washed. Now I'm wondering what else my husband didn't get done? #edit 2 to add information. Kids are 9 and 11. In-laws visit 4 or 5 times a year for at least a week. Not the butthole, and I seriously applaud you. So many women take this kind of crap and never have the guts to stand up for themselves. Playing nice sucks. Husband and parents will most likely call you difficult. They are upset the house is a mess? They can clean it themselves. You are not the maid, and you are not put on this earth to ensure everyone has a lovely time but you. You are the one that has to take of the aftermath. If your husband and his parents can't understand that children need routine and boundaries, you are in for a hell of a rough ride. Hopefully you've made it well known that you won't stand for that type of SH. Edit, thank you for the awards. Feel quite chuffed. I certainly hope OP provides an update, as so many people are rooting for her. She's the superhero we didn't know we needed. OP deserves all the awards. Not the butthole. He wants to let his parents have their way in your house. That is not okay. You guys probably have a good reason for the way that you handle things. If he can't understand that, then just stay with your folks whenever his visit. Although I do wonder what you mean by they are excellent grandparents. They sound like entitled butthole boomers but must be younger. Honestly, tough crap is right. Not the butthole. Personally, I relax the rules around stuff like snacks and TV when grandparents are there, but I have the last word and I would be furious to be overruled. Shrugging off the homework is unacceptable. Don't go home. Let your husband learn how to be a parent.